Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's about 10 o'clock here, so let's get started. We are going to make this session available afterwards, so we will record it and send it out. Gustav, can you hit that record for us?
All set.
All right, great. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. This is the third part of our GCEstimator webinar series. My name is Mike Pastor. I'm an account representative for Building Point Pacific. We are your authorized Trimble dealer. Your presenter this morning is going to be Gustav Chodo. He's a solutions engineer, also with Building Point Pacific. I just have a couple slides we're going to go through really quickly before I hand it over to Gustav and he jumps into the software. Just a little bit here about Building Point Pacific first. In case you're not familiar with us, we are the authorized distribution partner in California and Hawaii for all of Trimble's building portfolio products, excuse me. We're California's leading vertical construction technology provider and provide integrated office solutions, field technology, hardware, professional services, training, scheduling, estimating, implementation, layout, 3D scanning, you name it. We can help you with it as far as Trimble's guide. Design, build, operate solutions as well, combine a host of hardware, software, field technologies to help industry professionals do their job. Today's session, in case you weren't aware, we're going to cover Vico Office's Document Controller, which is part of our GCEstimator suite. A couple things on Vico Office Document Controller. Document Controller is a powerful 2D and 3D change management system. It's built specifically for design managers, document managers, BIM managers, and field engineers who need to reduce project risk by locating normal missed changes earlier on in the project. Today, Gustav is going to walk us through how to compare some 2D documents, some 3D models, as well as look at Document Controller's hybrid mode of comparing 2D to 3D. How's that sound, Gustav? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it, nailed it on the head. I'll add a little bit more as we go through the session here.
Okay, great.
Definitely
So just to let
What's that?
Sure, great. Just to let everybody know, before we get started, everyone is currently in listen-only mode. If you have any questions, please just type them in the chat window. We'll address them during certain breaks of the demonstration. We'll leave some time at the end as well to address some additional questions. So with that said, Gustav, we'll move it over to you and we'll get started here.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. All right, Mike, can you see my screen okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So we will be covering the third part of our GCEstimator series. Just want to make it clear, though, that this particular module, we are covering the suite. And as the suite implies, all these products can be also used standalone. So as you'll see during this presentation, this is a very powerful tool. And one thing I'd like to add to what Mike said, this is a construction purpose-built tool. So when we talk about models and document management, a lot of people think, hey, I have to be an architect or an engineer to really understand models or use them. Well, that's what Vico was invented. It was invented so that construction professionals who really all they really care about is managing the job, analyzing the job, not actually creating or authoring a model, but actually understanding what the quantities, what has changed. And that's what Vico was made in response to. So it's a tool that's at your fingertips, very easy to use, super intuitive, and made for the industry. So what you see on the screen currently is our document controller view. This is basically our home central for all our documentation, whether it is a 2D drawing or a 3D model. And one thing to note here, as we look here on the left side of our screen, we have a spreadsheet that basically lays out all our documents. Up here on the upper part, I have all my 2D PDF documents. I have architectural, I have plumbing drawings. I have the document name, and one of the very powerful features here is version control. So as is in construction, whether you're building or you're bidding work, we're constantly getting addendums and changes or bulletins to the drawings. What we could do inside of Vico Office is publish as we go along. So as you can see, I have 35% drawings that have come in. Now I have 75% and 100%. So what you would do during the process of iterating on a project, we would bring those drawings in, and the moment that we publish those drawings, one, we vectorize them. So whether it's a rastered PDF with no intelligence, we can read the line work, so you can snap to lines, and also analyze the line work. So the moment that happens, as you can see, I have green here. Red is telling me quickly that changes have happened. So the gray means that no document existed with that file name, and we've got changes here. So we can quickly identify the fact that something has changed and that we need to look at it. From this view, I can easily just drag a drawing. So I can just start analyzing, looking at my drawings, and seeing what has happened. What are my contract documents? I'm currently looking at my 35%. I can drag in my 100% and view what differences have happened. I can also right-click, and I can see that walls have been added. If we look back at our 35%, no walls.
Gustav, looks like your sound cut out.
Am I back now? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me, Mike? Hey, Mike, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Mike. Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. My computer's audio went out on me. Can you guys still see my screen okay?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay. Apologize about that. I don't know what happened there. All right. So what was the last thing? Where did I leave off?
The colors, red and green, showing the version.
Okay. So I'm not sure where was the last thing you heard, but the idea here with our columns and our document register is basically controlling versions, understanding what has changed, and the program will automatically tell me what has changed. The moment something turns red, I know there's a change that I need to analyze. If you see a cloud, that's basically telling us that there's a markup on that drawing, and I'll go through that in a bit. The other side of our document management is our model management. So one of the things that makes Vico Office quite unique is the fact that it can actually take in basically any 3D document that exists. We natively import Tekla, SketchUp, Revit, ArchiCAD, Bentley, CAD-Duct, but we can also take in basically any model that can be turned into an IFC file. An IFC is a universal 3D model file format, and most 3D softwares can export to an IFC. So essentially any model can be brought in. And again, with the same versioning control, as you can see here, we have version 1, 2, and 3. And again, we can just drag our models in and view them on the screen. Or we can just right-click and click View. And let's see if we can get a view of our model here. So now we can quickly, easily analyze the project. In this particular case, I've actually federated the model, meaning I've separated my substructure from my superstructure, from my exterior skin, from my interiors. So I can view these models separately, or I can also view them as a full mashup, if you will, basically all in context of each other. And I can start running analysis on all the elements that have been identified. So in this particular view, I'm looking at the 3D model of the substructure. So I can see all my piles, foundation walls, cores, and some beams there. I can view my exterior skin. Here I can see my bridge. So this is just on a very simple basis, just analyzing the model, analyzing the drawings, all in one place. You don't have to flip out and open Adobe or open Revit and start trying to play with different modeling tools. You don't have to use Tekla. You don't have to get into other softwares. You can always stay within the same software, but you're actually viewing models from all different sources. So if you get a model from your structure engineer, maybe there's modeling in Tekla. Your architect maybe is modeling in Revit, and maybe the designer is modeling in SketchUp. And you can mash those drawings up and actually coordinate and view them all in context of each other. But where it really starts to get exciting is when we want to do some comparison. So the fact that we have different versions of the same documents, now we can move into what we would call a comparison mode, analysis of change. So if we take, for example, let's start with the 2D. In this particular 2D drawing, we have basically the two towers. We have no walls at this point. And in this particular version, we have walls. But what I can do is actually select both those drawings, and I can do a compare document. And I know for those of you that work in the field of construction, and I worked as a project engineer for about 3 years on a project, and one of my jobs was to actually slip sheet the drawings in the field. Basically, if there was a change or an addendum that came out, my job was basically to paste it on to either the old drawing or supersede the old drawing. And what we call that was slip sheeting. Within Vico Office, if you notice what I'm doing, I have this bar here. We call it the slider bar. And what I can do is basically do a virtual slip sheet. So I can slide this back and forth, and I can see what changes have happened. I can flip this bar by clicking this button here and make it a vertical bar. So I can view that 2 ways. So that's what we call our slider mode. The next very powerful mode we have is highlight. Highlight is nice because it actually gives you a visual representation of changes. If I open up my highlight settings here, that kind of explains it a little bit more succinctly. I have checkboxes here. When both documents are being analyzed, I can assign a color to anything that was new, deleted, modified, or changed. And I can isolate these particular elements. So right now I had them all checked off, but maybe I want to see what was deleted. I can apply everything in red was deleted. And if tolerances, say maybe it's line work and they've slightly adjusted the drawing, I can give myself maybe a little more of a tolerance. You click apply, and then you can see what really was deleted, and it wasn't just kind of a shift maybe in the line work. I can also see what was new, so I can see there's a lot of walls that were added to my project, and I can also see what was unchanged. And I can see most of the grid lines, of course, weren't changed, and some of the dimensions as well. I can have it ignore text, or I can actually have it look for text as well. And I can adjust the translucency or even the colors. Say maybe these colors don't resonate with you, then you can also adjust that. So that is highlight mode. And the very last mode for 2D drawing comparison is what we would call overlay. And overlay is exactly how it sounds. Literally it's a virtual light table, if you will. Where we can actually overlay multiple drawings at the same time. We could even we can overlay, say, a plumbing drawing over a mechanical drawing over an architectural drawing. In this particular case, I'm overlaying the same document, and I can actually do the same color coding, and I can assign a color to one version and assign a different color to the other. So now I can get a better representation, and maybe I pick a brighter color so it kind of pops. So now we can see that there's some differences here. A lot has stayed the same, and that's why it's staying one color, and there are a few changes here and there. So this is an overlay. So now let's transition into our 3D comparison. And this is kind of where it gets.
So one point that I wanted to make, Gustav, before we move over from 2D to 3D, pretty common question that we get with the 2D documents is what type of file formats do 2D drawings need to be brought into for the comparisons to work? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, good question. Yes, PDF drawing is definitely our standard, and it works the best to do comparisons and to do the vectorizing of the PDF. But we can also take TIFF files. You can also import JPEGs as well. I mean, you could even put Excel files in the document manager. Not that you would use those for comparison, but there is a lot of flexibility in the files that you can bring in. But for comparison purposes and analyzation, PDFs definitely is the standard that we would want to stick with.
Great, thank you.
All right, so now let's transition into more of a 3D workflow. I'm coming down here to my 3D models, and I can right-click and view. Let's see here. Get our model up here. And bear with me, Micah. The GoToWebinar side panel sometimes can bog my machine a little bit.
No,
get this thing going here. Let's see here, superstructure, do compare. All right, here we go. Awesome. All right, so earlier we were viewing models. We were just dragging them over and taking a look at them. But much like we can do it in our 2D workflow, we can do a lot of the same thing with models. So right now what I did was I selected version 1 of the model and I selected version 2 of the model. And in this particular case, I'm looking at the structure, the superstructure. So in this particular mode, I am in slider mode. And I get a similar slider as I did in the 2D drawing, only that it's sitting in 3D space. So what I can do here is actually grab it and slide it over, and I can see what has changed in that drawing. And I can quickly visualize and see that those staircases have been added from one version to the next. So right away there, instant identification of a scope change. I can also create a highlighted version of that comparison and see exactly what has happened. Let's take a look at our highlight settings and make sure we're looking at the right things. So right now I'm looking anything unchanged. So it looks most of the unchanged is a lot of the steel work. But if we look at what was new, let's isolate that, and we can see that a lot of that the staircase is exactly what was added. Let's see if they deleted anything out of the document. Nope. So, and we can also see things that were modified. So you can see there was some modification to the floor decks, and we can look at it all as a mashup as well. So we can see it all in the context of the full project. You can see that the bridge stayed the same. A lot of the columns and the beams are the same. The staircases are new, and the and the decks were modified in some way. Maybe they were increased in size or made a little bit smaller. And we can do this with all the different drawings. We could even compare different scopes of work to each other as well. So if I want to look at the substructure in comparison to the superstructure, I can do that. So there's always a, I think everybody can agree that the 3D models have been a pretty amazing technology that has come into construction. Big engineering firms have been using BIM for a long time. It's probably 20 years, the Bechtels of the world. But it was never really an affordable choice for construction. But now, today, we can actually leverage a lot of this. And it can be a little bit divisive. I know some of the maybe the OGs or old school construction professionals still kind of hesitating the adoption. I know that the younger people that are coming in from college are really adopting it. And one of the things that we really tried to do here with the software was being able to address both constituents. The people that are trying to push the envelope further using models, using all the information and the quick understanding that you can gain from them. But on the other hand, appreciating the fact that 2D still rules the day on any project, because they are the contract documents. They are basically our Bible, what we need to adhere to. So what we created within Vico was an ability to actually use both document types side by side. So you don't have to choose whether or not you use a 3D model versus a 2D document. Now you can actually use both. So in the next mode that I'm going to show you, we call this mode hybrid analyzation. So I've activated, or I'm viewing my superstructure model, and I am going to activate here. I have some side palettes here that I always have access to. And what I'm going to do is actually bring in a reference plane. So let me turn off my running mode.
Well, one thing that I'd like to mention here, Gustav, in regards to the models, I want everybody to be aware, in Vico, you cannot make changes to the models, right? So Vico is primarily an analysis tool. We bring the models in from a variety of platforms, right? Vico is very agnostic, so we can take them from just about any design platform, and we analyze it here in Vico. We don't change the model.
That's a good point. Thank you for clearing that. This is, not an authoring tool, and that's by design. We don't want it to be an authoring tool. This is an analysis tool. So I have here my superstructure. I've mapped in a 2D drawing, and what I can do here is once I have it activated, so I've turned the little eye on, got this eye on, and what I can do now is section the model. So with one click, I can start looking at the 2D drawing in context of the model. And I can start looking to see if the model and the 2D drawing are lockstep with each other. And as I can see, it is. So what you're really starting to gain here is confidence in the model and understanding that it is a good model. They have actually modeled it correctly. And what a lot of contractors and people, there's kind of a misnomer. They think that models aren't good because the architects are doing them. But the reality is the architects are actually basing their 2D drawings from these models. So when they're drawing in Revit, these 2D drawings are actually coming from the models. What can be kind of a hurdle sometimes is getting quality models for construction from architects. But with a little QA/QC, you can see that most of these models are actually really good and can be used. Not for everything. 2D is still going to be part of our workflow, but what the models do is give us quick understanding and also quick quantities that we can verify. I can also map in drawings as well in plan view, and understand how it works in context to the 3D document. And I would challenge anybody to look for another product that kind of can do this. And this is kind of one of the things that we're really, really proud of, is being able to bridge the gap and not force people in just to a 3D mode or just a 2D mode, and the ability to be able to do both. And we've mapped every single floor here of this project, and I can also, as I've done with the other ones, section my model with my 2D document. So now I can zoom in and kind of understand a little bit deeper. You know, some of these details sometimes don't get into the models, and we get structural models, superstructure models, but we don't get the architectural because there's a lot of details. And now we can overlay and make sure that, you know, that they have stayed true to it. And as you can see, they put everything's in the right place. I can feel confident. And if for some reason they haven't modeled something correctly, we can track those changes. We give you the ability here with a markup tool to add a cloud. Say this stair opening was in the wrong place or wasn't coordinated well with the 2D drawing. I can put a bubble around that issue, if you will. The moment I close the bubble, that cloud, I get a new palette here called Properties Issue Items. Here I can add notes and basically say stair not coordinated with plan view. I can add a lot more data in here. Give it an owner, cost impact, date required, grid reference, trade involved, category. That screenshot is saved here in time and associated with that particular issue. And I'll jump into issues a little bit more, but just know that we've created an issue here, and it's we can track to it for future reference. So let's jump into a little bit more of model analysis. We've looked at 2D drawings, viewing them, comparing them. We've looked at 3D models, viewing them, comparing them to each other. We viewed 3D and 2D in the same place and created an issue. But another thing that we can do within Vico Office is actually isolate certain areas of the project. So Vico Office works with locations, so we can actually slice and dice the project with non-destructive areas, meaning that I can break up the project by level. And let's see here, let's deselect all. And I want to maybe just view these particular, view those particular floors. I can tell the project, hey, I only want to see the first few floors. And I can select more floors if I want to. I can also look at it from a element perspective. So let's see here. Say I only want to view the superstructure. Can apply that, and you can see everything's been kind of grayed out. And I can just reset all filters, and basically I'm seeing everything again. And let me shut off my reference plane because that may be mucking up my filtering here. And we can also do it by object, beam profiled. So let's say all I want to do is see those particular objects. I've isolated, you know, the stairs, the beams, the columns, the profile, and I can maybe get rid of that, and maybe I don't want to see beams. So all I want to see is stairs. So we can isolate the model by element and filter out, and we could either isolate selected or hide selected or make the selected translucent. So you do have a lot of ability to isolate the model and view different things, so you can get a better understanding of the project. So say I want to get rid of my slabs, and now I'm only looking at my walls, my columns, beams, stairs, and any objects that may be in the project. Awesome. All right. So Why don't we, I want to transition and maybe kind of take this to another level. Say we familiarize ourselves with the project. We've isolated elements. We got a pretty good understanding. We've confirmed that the 2D documents are true to the 3D model and vice versa. But maybe want to look more at the elements and understand what else. What are the quantities? What are my deliverables that I can take out of these models? So let's transition to our model takeoff view. And in this particular view here, or module, if you will, we call it TOM. Affectionately call this TOM, Takeoff Manager. What Takeoff Manager does is basically analyze all the elements within the project and quantifies them. It basically fills it with virtual water and analyzes each element, and the moment that it knows it's a slab, it will give you quantities that you need to price a slab, or when it identifies a door, it'll give you the quantities that you need to price a door. But what I want to show you here is what we call our running mode. And our running mode essentially gives you a few options. We can either highlight, isolate an element, can hide the element, we can dim it, or make it translucent. In this particular case, I want to just isolate. So over on the left, I have my Takeoff Manager, and these are all the items and elements that Vico Office has identified within the project. So I have a stone wall, exterior metal railing, and right now maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I can see this 1 hour partition wall. If I open it up a bit more, hit the plus sign, now I can start seeing a little bit more analysis. I can see the counts. I can see the length of the wall. I have 797 feet of wall. I can get the top surface area. I can get the side surface area. So now I can either figure out how much drywall I have, also how much paint I may need. If I look at, say, let's look at a slab on grade here. We can also see the edge surface area, so we know how much formwork we need. Net top surface area, edge surface area, and then we have our net volume in cubic yards, 2,000. So if we take the analysis a step further, if we activate our running mode, we can actually view each of these elements isolated in the 3D view, so we can see exactly what it is isolated from the rest of the project. So I've got my skylights, I have my metal wall panel, my glass canopy, my interior walls and non-rated, I have my toilet partitions, column encasements, and I can just go down the list and start understanding at a deeper level. And you can see our elevators there. I have my crane, and we can just keep going until we get to, so I'm trying to get to I want to get to the pile caps. Here we are, pile caps. I like showing pile caps. I think it really shows, it really clearly defines exactly how powerful our isolation and running mode is. So right now, I'm on my pile cap element. I've opened up my, what we call our construction caliber quantities. I have 72 pile caps. I have my edge perimeter, my net bottom, top surface area, and my volume. So we filtered through and we saw we were isolating elements, looking at them by themselves. Now if we drill deeper into one particular element, and as an estimator or somebody, a construction professional, when we see a model, we want to know that it's a good model. We want to know where the quantities are coming from. When we're looking at a Revit model, we pull those schedules, those quantity schedules. I mean, personally, I never felt confident because I couldn't tell where they were coming from, what exactly was being calculated. So within Vico Office, when we dive into the construction quantities, we can actually visually see. So this net top surface area, as you can see, it's highlighting for me exactly what is included in that quantity. I can
look at edge surface area and see that those are the surfaces that have been quantified. So no longer do you have to click around the four corners and do a manual takeoff. You can feel confident about this takeoff without actually doing it. Now instead of doing takeoff, you are just in an analyzation mode. And we can look at the top, we can look at the bottom, and really understand what's going on. And one thing that we can do, so say for example, we have all this edge surface, this building is butted up against another building, so we don't need to form that. So say we wanted to take that out, remove that from our equation, I can actually just go along and I'm actually deleting and taking out and removing quantity takeoff from my model. So no longer do I need to click on four corners, literally just the face of what I want to remove from my takeoff. And you can see the quantities are changing. And I can put it back if I want. So you can see my quantities are increasing. And we can create custom elements as well. So say, hey, there was something here. Maybe these get epoxy on them for whatever reason. Maybe it was a piece of steel and you wanted to just only get that side. So now instead of clicking all four corners, you click a face and you quantified it. We can also, to give you a bit more confidence in your model, we give you a measuring tool so you can snap to a corner and see that this particular column is 9 foot 11 3/4. So quick analyzation, quick understanding, and we give you the ability to do manual takeoff as well. So as you can see, but instead of clicking on four corners, you can just click a face and understand what it is and derive all these what we call construction caliber quantities. And I think this is what really sets Vico apart from just getting quantities from an authoring tool like Revit or SketchUp or Tekla. Is that these quantities are geared to the way that we construct, right? We really want to know, say if you're a concrete contractor, you want to know what the edge surface area of your piles are because you need to form those up. You need to know the cubic yardage. You need to know exactly what's being calculated. And for example, removing quantities when you don't need it or adding it when you do need it. So we looked at isolation mode, but when you want to gain understanding of an element within the context of the project itself, we use what I call highlight mode. So right now I've activated my highlight mode and I can click my auto reveal. And basically what auto reveal does, it peels back any element that may be obstructing my view of that particular scope of work. So now I can see those elements in context of the full project. So if I just filter through here, go down the list, my element is being highlighted, but everything else is being peeled away so that I can understand what that element is in context of my full project. So now I'm looking at my interior walls, I'm looking at my column encasements, glazed walls, and we can go down the list. And we could do the opposite as well, is we can make our selected element translucent, but I think that making everything else around it translucent actually makes it a little more powerful. All right, so now that we've kind of gone through, we've seen 2D documents, 3D models, we've compared both, compared them to each other, we've analyzed our model, we've looked at the elements, we've looked at the construction caliber quantities that have been produced from the model that have been analyzed. Now we can kind of transition back. Let's go back to document management and look at that issue that we created. So anything that's going on with our project, we obviously, we're not silos. This information needs to get out to our teams, our constituents, to our architects, to our owners. whoever it is that needs to address the issue. Earlier today I created a issue, highlighted that staircase. We pretended that it was incoordinated. Obviously it was. But I can move into what we call our issue management tracker. And all the clouds that I've created from the past say that I've got it into a review mode. I've looked at all my elements. I've noticed that there's been problems or issues that I want addressed. And all of those have been tracked here. So here's the last one that I just created. Two ways to view it here in this spreadsheet view, or I can also view it in this what we call our card mode. Card mode is nice because it gives you a lot more data about the project and it shows you the screenshot. So what I can do here with these arrows is actually filter through. I can see what drawing it was, what the reference documents, the element type, the code, the screenshot here, and I can go through here and view what was created. So we can go through and analyze. We can see, hey, this skylight's not coordinated. That stairwell, we can pretend, yeah, it's not coordinated. Architect needs to align his model with his 2D document. And what we can do with this information is actually create very professional looking reports. So let's run a report and see what those reports look like. So within Vico, we have a very powerful report creator. We give you a bunch of out-of-the-box reports. You could do takeoff report, issue reports, cost reports, or work package reports. In this case, we're going to just do let's do our traditional issue report. We generate the report, and as you can see, you can add your logo, project name, contact email, and then we can view all our issues here. We haven't added a lot of information into these issues. We just kind of taken screenshots, but essentially all of that can be input. These can be sent out to a team for analysis. One of the workflows that a lot of our pre-con departments, whoever is the kind of PE in that team, will go through, upload the drawings, upload the models, and just start going through and QA, what we call QA/QC. Anytime they encounter an issue, excuse me, they create, they bubble it, give it an owner, say, hey, Mike's got structural, I've got the exterior skin, and everybody's issues get distributed to them at the beginning of the week, maybe the week that the project's due for bid. So it can be easily tracked, can be sent to the architect, engineers, whoever it is, whoever is the person that really needs to address the issue. Mike, anything you'd like to add?
No, not at the moment. I do have some questions, but we'll get to those as soon as you wrap up, Gustav.
All right. All right. So I think I've actually showed you guys from a high level document management within Vico Office, and the idea here is you're not beholden to just 2D or 3D. And I would challenge all the contractors out there that say that maybe they don't get the models, or maybe their architects aren't modeling. The truth is, and I've talked to a lot of architects out there, they're all using Revit now. It's rare actually the architect that's not using Revit. So essentially they are modeling every project. And really what we should do as contractors is actually just talk to these architects. Hey, can you just give me the 3D model? Obviously, sometimes architects can be a little hesitant because the quality of their models aren't always too great. But again, it doesn't really matter because if we are able to analyze and confirm that their models are good, we can use those and get really quick, hard-hitting quantities and understanding of a project. So no longer do we need to spend an hour looking at elevations and plan views and trying to frame the project in our head, which is good, which is still a good practice, and I don't say that we stop doing that as professionals. being able to understand the project and show it to others in your team quickly for quick understanding does have a value, because in construction, time is money, and the quicker you can understand a project, understand the jogs on the skin, or soffits that maybe you wouldn't really quickly see in a drawing, but you would see them in a 3D document, in a 3D model. So let me transition over to you, Mike, so we can move over into maybe a little Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Gustav. Appreciate it. So I'll show my screen here. I'm just going to put up our contact information for you guys. If you have any other questions, want to give Gustav or I a call, you can use that contact info right there. A couple questions that did come up. One being, what 3D formats can you bring in to Vico Office when we're comparing models? I think we answered this a little bit earlier in the demo, but as I mentioned, Vico Office is pretty agnostic, right? So we can bring Revit, SketchUp, Tekla, ArchiCAD. Am I missing any there, Gustav?
Yeah, Bentley, CAD Duct, and then any file type that we don't natively support, we could still bring it in. We would just need to export it as an IFC file. So I know that there's a lot of other 3D drafting softwares out there, and almost all of them nowadays by default have an export to IFC. So if we're able to get it in that file, we can bring it into Vico and use it.
I do have a question that came up for you, specifically, Gustav. In regards to the 2D, how do we manage and scale drawings when we bring them in?
Okay, good question there. Yeah, so when we bring in a drawing, typically if the drawing has been reduced in size or increased in size, we do need to go in and actually adjust those scales. The nice thing is that if all the PDFs have been pretty much brought in or scaled wrong from the beginning, or say the size have been reduced, we can scale one drawing, and it's a very easy process. Just very similar to other softwares out there. You find a known length on that drawing, and you can click on either side of that, and then set that particular drawing. So that's what we call like a manual scaling a drawing manually. We can also, if the original size is still true to the original scale, we can also find the scale on the drawing and just set it manually and say, hey, this is 1/8 of an inch equals a foot, and we can apply that to all the drawings in the set. So it's pretty easy to fix a drawing and make sure that it's to scale, so that we can either do takeoff on it or also compare one version to another. So we can scale one drawing as it relates to another.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. One last question that came up here is, how is the software licensed? I can kind of address that a little bit. And they asked, is there a cloud version? As of right now, no, there is not a cloud version of Vico Office, and the reason for that is mainly because it's too robust of a solution. In the future, is that possible? Maybe, we're not really sure, but right now it's just licensed per machine or on your desktop station. So.
Yeah, and I know that the cloud is getting popular, but I still believe that you got to have, there's certain things that you just want to have on your computer. Running this type of graphics over the internet, there's other products out there that do it. The thing is, what they really do is it's just kind of Revit for dummies. I think the workflow that we're doing here is pretty unique. So it is good to have that native power from your computer. But you never know. Nowadays with the way that things are moving and supercomputers and being able to host things in the cloud, eventually it could be an option. But as a publicly traded company, we can't really comment on that or really even really guess, right? But based on what the industry is doing, who knows? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll note too, this webinar series is about GCEstimator Suite, right? So the suite of products that we have, including WinEst and our Takeoff tool, but Document Controller and all the solutions you're going to see throughout this entire series, they're available on their own as well. So they don't need to be purchased within GCEstimator Suite. Just another key point there.
Yes, exactly. And if here, let me actually, I can show here the master workflow palette here. 1 second. So what we have here, actually, all these could be our standalone modules. You get most of the suite with the GCEstimator suite. The GCEstimator suite is actually a pretty sweet deal because you do get WinEst, which is your estimating spreadsheet, but you do get all of Vico. So you can do your 2D, your 3D takeoff, your document analysis. You can do location-based management. And these are all the modules. But a lot of these can stand alone, like Document Controller can stand alone. Takeoff Model and Takeoff Pad can also stand alone. We have our Manage Issues is part of Document Control. And we also have, within Vico, an estimating sheet as well, in addition to the WinEst sheet. It's more of a top-down target value design estimating. And actually a whole, this is kind of a tangent and probably a subject in its own right, is schedule planning. Within Vico, you can actually do flow line scheduling, which is a little bit different than CPM. The difference is that we can actually add a third dimension, which is location. And we can visually view a schedule on a graph format, so we can identify places where we can optimize schedule or where we have overlap. So thank you for bringing that up. Vico can stand alone, and a lot of these modules can stand alone as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot for your time today, Gustav. Thanks everybody else who joined us for the webinar. We do have one more session coming up next month. That one's going to be on integrating WinEst with Vico, right, Gustav?
Correct. Yeah, so we're going to be taking our quantities, our construction caliber quantities that we saw today, and how we can sync those with our estimate, and also iterate, say, as we get new models and quantities are changing, how we can identify those within the estimate and make sure that we are in lockstep with the current design.
Yeah. Great. And again, our contact info is on the screen. Feel free to reach out to one of us. What's that?
You have to share your screen there so they can see.
Oh.
Yeah, I had taken screen. I was taking power back. There you go.
Oh, you took it back. There you go, everybody. There's our contact info. Please let us know if you have any questions. Look forward to hoping to see you again next week. Thank you.
Next month. Next month.
Next month. Next month. Yeah.
All right, Mike. Take care. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your weekend.
You too.